Oh, top of the morning to y'all, Los Angeles. Guten Morgen, lovers of the black and gold. Bună dimineața, that's Romanian, to fans of Major League Soccer, and what the F is up to the millions
and millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners. Welcome to another episode of Defenders of the Bank, and this is a happy one. Happy for a variety of reasons. Happy because it's a beautiful Saturday morning. And while the chorus for the Sublime song Burritos was in my head as I got up, I don't want to leave my bed today, keeps repeating, I smiled, mainly because we advanced. Mainly because this is the last time for a significant period that we don't have to talk about Vanni Zartini and the Vancouver Whitecaps, and smiling cheekily because LAFC didn't waste any time withdrawing funds from our account for the next round. Please, oh, please let this game be on November 23rd. Otherwise, I will once again be turning into a ticket account rep. I don't want that. Good morning to y'all once again. My name is Christian Philemon, the unkept and barely awake flamingo. And joining me, the Bishop of Bufandas, the Sultan of Silks, the Tyrant of Threads, the man of more of these items than he knows what to do with, J.R. Liebert.
It's the scarf. What's good? Yeah, I'm the morning person between the two of us. I know I don't quite look like it, but I got to be at work in about an hour. So that's going to be fun. You guys, look, we don't have to talk about the Vancouver Whitecaps anymore. That is wonderful news. Philly, real quick, according to MLS PR or LAFC PR last night, it's still not been decided, 23rd or 24th. Yep. We don't know yet when the next match is going to be. We know it is not going to be against Vancouver. It will be the Seattle Sounders. And Philly, what a morning to wake up and realize, okay, survive in advance. But I do want to point out one thing for all of you out there, the faithful of the black and gold. We won MLS Cup on November 5th. November 5th. Now, as I check the calendar today, it's Saturday, November 9th, and we're only getting to the semis. And oh, by the way, that's in 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the Western Conference semis, another week for the Western Conference finals, and then MLS Cup. Don Garber, you suck. Where's the offseason? We got, 6 weeks until we play in Palm Springs at the Greater Invitational at the Polo Grounds out there. And, oh, by the way, they announced our schedule for the Polo Grounds. It's 4 games. It's all against the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's who we're going to play when we're out in the Polo Grounds. Watch.
No, you're just speculating. Okay. I was going to say shut up.
But, I mean, Philly, November 5th, we were celebrating MLS Cup. It's going to be way past that.
No, I absolutely hate this. It sucks. You're 100% right. Now, while 6 weeks might be the greatest vacation for people like you and I, working schlubs that still have to go to a 9 to 5 while chasing their dreams, this just sucks for us, period. I was feeling beyond burnt out last season. I'm burnt out this season. I mean, we're pretty much approaching the amount of games that we did play last season. You're right. Forever, remember the 5th of November, and I will, because that was the MLS Cup, one of the greatest days in the history of our club. Fantastic times. But now we got an international break to deal with. Matty Bogusz is going to play for the Polish senior national side. Incredible stuff. But obviously now begs the question, oh, God, these guys are going to come back maybe tired, God forbid injured. Like, there's just so many variables that come into play that could potentially stick a fork in a wrench in what we're trying to accomplish. But regardless of that, we move on. We finished one team that we've played 1,000 times that was pissed off at us for getting their asses handed to them time and time again. Next round against another team that we played slightly more historically than the other team, but that shares the common trait of being pissed off at us because we've beaten their ass time and time again.
Yeah, you're talking about the other team to have played us 22 times in our history. I actually think Vancouver may have played us 23 times now. Carson's played us 24. That means the other 2 teams that have played us the most are now Vancouver and Seattle. Seattle, obviously, who we get up next. By the way, they said Matty Bogusz will be coming back from international break 2 days before the match. 2 days before the match if it's on the 23rd. 3 days if it's on the 24th. We don't yet know other players' international break schedules. We do know from some weird quotes, maybe there's something lost in translation in Luxembourgish, but that was a weird way to tell Maxime Chanot that he's no longer going to be part of the national team. It was, I don't know, there's some weird European lack of tact that I just don't
No,
understand sometimes.
honestly, Scarf, that's truly how the people from Luxembourg are. If you were ever to Google the unfriendliest countries, Luxembourg typically comes up, and it's mainly because it's a very wealthy nation with a high average net worth. They're snooty in Luxembourg. It's just how it's always been.
Well, I mean, that was definitely a snooty way to tell one of your longest tenured players that he's no longer going to be representing the flag for you. That was kind of harsh. And by the way, I do want to mention something that Philly talked about in the Open. The whistle blew. We won 1-0. And then I got an alert on my account. Large transaction detected. Literally like a minute and a half after the match ended. And look, we opted in, so I get it, right? Like it's not like I wish they would have waited or anything. It's got to come out eventually. But whoever at LAFC was sitting there going, and we won. All right. Yeah. And then click that button. I hope you sprained your finger pressing that button. I just do. That's what
like
I got.
That.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that finger. That
Are
finger
you
right
still
there.
wearing that thing, or has it just turned black and dead with gangrene?
Ew, no, that's gross. No, I mean, I still have stitches in it, although they're falling out. I'm getting better. I started to lift a little bit of weight this week, so I was able to push up. But yeah, it's still kind of weird. But no kidding, I could just see right now a gaggle, a boardroom of account executives, if you will, going click. And then boom, all of a sudden, money. And you're right, I get it too, but Jesus, they didn't waste any freaking time. Again, LAFC, if I could put in a request, I know many of y'all in the front office, I know many of you owners listen to this podcast. We've had plenty of occasions in conversation, and I love y'all for it, and thank you so much. It means the world to us. But if I could ever make a request, please let the game be on the 23rd, because I got another broadcast the day after. I've missed more LAFC games consecutively than I ever have in my entire life, and I just don't want to try to sell a ticket. I want to go to a game. By the way, Anna did successfully sell a ticket at the very last minute, and she didn't end up seeing the person who bought my seat because they never showed up. But whoever you are, I just want to say thank you. At least we didn't get creamed in terms of a loss.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was an interesting atmosphere at BMO Stadium to start. 32-52 was 32-52. This is when I talk about the interesting atmosphere, it usually has nothing to do with the 32-52. This was certainly the case again. They were loud, they were raucous, they brought it from the jump because they always do. But the rest of the stadium, there was so much nervous energy in the building again. It was like, come on, not Vancouver, please, not Vancouver. Luckily, Philly, not a lot of stuff to talk about in this match. You want to talk about a quote unquote professional, tactical, boring as hell 1-0 edge of your seat win. That's what we got here. I feel like that's Vancouver in a nutshell. It's boring. It's beautiful. It's professional. And then you get out of there and you're like, all right, some of that was fun, but I'm ready to be home now.
I got a couple text messages from people saying you're not missing much. This game's kind of dull. Nobody's really done anything, and just judging based on what I saw in stats after the first half, we had 0 shots on target yet again. They had 1. I mean, whoa, you're really going to strike fear in the heart of people when you're not having any shots on target. Granted, Hugo Lloris had himself, a save, and then, there were a couple of moments, but all in all, it wasn't a great first half from LAFC based on what I gathered. We couldn't even muster up more than 150 accurate passes at a percentage that was something of even a B+ standard. We're looking at an 80% passing accuracy for LAFC on 153 passes, by the way. Yeah, so clearly Vancouver held possession, but they took 8 shots. We did nothing. We just sat there and absorbed, didn't really press them, maybe tried to attack on a counter here and there, but man, just not a convincing way to let everybody know that we're feeling confident and good about ourselves. And not a very convincing performance, period, over the course of 2 halves, but either way, you won.
No, look, Philly, and I've got thoughts on that. Steve Cherundolo had thoughts on that in the press conference, but you mentioned it. This is LAFC's 49th match of 2024. That means we're guaranteed to hit 50 matches 2 years in a row after playing 53 last season. When we make it to MLS Cup, it'll be 52 this season. Absolutely unbelievable the amount of games that they are forcing MLS rosters to compete in over the course of a calendar year, and especially as congested as they make it, as stopped and started as they make it with international breaks and Leagues Cup and Open Cup and all of the other things that we want to do. But man, to think about how 102 of our matches and then 12 of them, 12 were Vancouver. I mean, that's over 10%. It's unbelievable. And Philly, I don't know that anyone's ever played 100 matches in back-to-back seasons. I don't know if 102. We got to find that number. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. I mean, it's not you mean in Major League Soccer? No, that couldn't be possible.
Yeah, right? I mean, I know obviously
that's barely possible because all these extra tournaments just came through. There's no way.
Well, and you would know better than I. How many matches did Bayer Leverkusen play last year en route to going undefeated?
Off the top of my head, I don't know that. I mean, now you're putting me on the spot, but obviously you've got, like 30-ish, 34 games in the Bundesliga, Leverkusen. Then you've got the Pokal, which is their version of the U.S. Open Cup / FA Cup. And then they were in the Europa League and they almost went completely undefeated. But unfortunately they fell to Serie A side Atalanta. But I don't know how many games they played in totality. That's a good question. I'd have to
I know they were in the 40s in that undefeated streak, but and that's playing all the matches that they could possibly play. I mean, they didn't make Champions League, but they made Europa League. That's pretty much the same number of games and everything. So
yeah, considering they made it to the final. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Look,
let's double check that, but there's no way it could. This bad like 100 games in 2 seasons. I don't know, man. Like the caffeine's barely kicking in. As you can tell, I didn't wash my face. You good. It's a good thing you can't smell the fact that I didn't brush my teeth. Dragon breath. The coffee hasn't even kicked in yet. I haven't even changed my shirt. Somebody asked me, like, hey, where's your LAFC kid? I didn't put it on. I just quickly ran through like Marty McFly in the movie Back to the Future. Did you sleep in your clothes again, McFly? I did.
Listen, people are talking about in the chat real quick. Let's address this. The Lewis O'Brien the buy price on Lewis O'Brien. It's not what we're paying him annually, by the way. It's just the fee that it takes to have him become quote unquote LAFC property. And he is 1000% worth everything that we have been paying him. He did not have a great first half. Did not have a great first half at all. And really his first touch really betrayed him at times, even in the second half. But I love all of y'all in the chat that are a little lower on Lewis O'Brien than I am. I just disagree with you completely. The way that he changed our club and made, by the way, Edward Atuesta for a good chunk of the season replaceable, which I thought was a real challenge, and he brings something completely different to the table. I thought Atuesta was great, by the way, in this match. I'll talk about him in a second too. But Philly, your take on Lewis O'Brien? I think we absolutely need to buy him and bring him into black and gold for the rest of his career if we could.
I'm going to give another shameless plug to Soccer in 60, another show I'm a part of. We interviewed Jordan Harvey, not this past week, the week before that. Jordan Harvey now serving as the assistant technical director for Los Angeles Football Club. And if you're curious as to what in the hell that means, go listen to the pod. He actually explains his day-to-day operations. He made a comment about there being some mid-season acquisitions that really had a massive impact on LAFC and how they were able to sustain such a good run, a winning streak, and winning the U.S. Open Cup. And I can tell you for a fact, and it wasn't anything about reading in between the lines. It wasn't talking about Olivier Giroud. Absolutely not. It wasn't him. It was definitely Lewis O'Brien. Lewis O'Brien has made our midfield a lot more dynamic and a lot faster. I love some of our midfielders. Like, Ilie Sanchez, Timothy Tillman can be hit or miss. I'll be honest with you. He's not as consistent as Lewis O'Brien is. Although Timmy can have moments of brilliance, I think Lewis O'Brien is a much more consistent player. That bicycle kick attempt, I give it an A+ for the beauty of it. I give it a D for the direction of it. He almost made a profit out of me in terms of him being the black horse to score the goal. But I do like Lewis O'Brien. I do think he's been a big part of why we've gone on the run that we did. What?
Dark Dark
Like I
horse.
said, the caffeine hasn't kicked in. Jesus Christ. So I do think he's a big part of our team. I mean, if you look through and go through our midfielders, Edward Atuesta isn't ours. Ilie Sanchez, I love him, but he's creeping up there in age. Timothy Tillman, like I said, is hit or miss. Who else do we really have in there that could be a phenomenal midfielder? Obviously, we've gone 3-4-3, so things have changed in that sense, but Lewis O'Brien is fine by me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the way that Atuesta is playing again, if he can play this way, maybe we keep the purchase option open with Palmeiras after this too. If Ilie doesn't come back, or who knows, I don't know what's going on with Ilie. I'm not saying anything, but either way, Philly. Let's get into the match. Let's get into talking about it. We don't have a whole lot. Although I do want to share with all of my card collecting friends out there something really quickly, just some little fun card collecting thing while Philly drinks some coffee. Eric Duenas has a card in the new MLS Superstars set from Topps that just came out this week. Eric Duenas has some cards. A couple of other guys that don't know. Nathan Ordaz has cards in there, which is kind of neat. And there's an online game that a lot of people play called Topps Total Football, and you can print some of the base cards from it. And I got my first 3 today. There's a Ugo card, which is kind of neat. I like the Ugo card. It's his first non-Topps Now card, and I can explain that to anybody in the chat that wants to know what it is. There's an Omar Campos. I was really excited that he got his first card in black and gold. And then the first card for Kike Oliveira that's not a Topps Now card. So that was pretty cool. I just wanted to share.
These all come out.
So this is like an online
boxes come out. Why?
This is like an online only. Hold on. This is an online only thing. This one just came out yesterday. So you and I will have to talk. We'll get some boxes. We'll open some stuff up.
Are they even out? Like this, like the Topps MLS like hobby box thing is the dumbest ish ever. I mean, it took 3/4 of the season for them to come out last year. I didn't even bother buying a box because it was so late in the year. I stopped caring. Why? Why do they do this stupid thing?
So MLS Superstars is the first 2024 set of the year, and it's November 9th of 2024.
Sweet.
Yeah, they did a great job with that. Thanks, Topps. Either way. Oh, yeah, Raquinho or whatever they were calling him, right, Mikey? All right, so Philly, shall we get into the lineups? Let's talk about it.
Cool, go ahead. Start with the I'm not even going to mention their name. Even my brain's sick of hearing it.
Hey, it's Juan, by the way, in the chat, also has a nice LAFC collection of cards. We talk all the time. Vancouver Whitecaps, coached by Vanni Sartini, 4-3-2-1. And the only change from last match, although all 3 matches did have different starting lineups, the only change from last match was Pedro Vite coming back in to the starting lineup for Ali Ahmed. Ahmed would come off the bench. So that's Yohei Takaoka in goal. The back line stayed the same from last match. Berhalter, Veselinovic, Tristan Blackman, and Sam Adekugbe, who I was hoping, or at least I thought, might have a little bit better of a game. Midfielders were Pedro Vite, Andreas Cubas, and Stuart Armstrong. And I have to tell you, I loved it when Stuart Armstrong came out of the game because I was far less worried about Vancouver at that point. And up top, of course, Ryan Gauld, Brian White, and a player who couldn't nearly peel back the hands of time on Sergi Palencia as he did on Kike Oliveira. Last match would be Fafa Picault. Only 4 players coming off the bench in Vancouver's final game of the 2024 season. Alessandro Schaff, David Caicedo, Ali Ahmed, and Matias, not Tommy Laborda. So those are your 4. Soccer USA asks, anybody else have mixed reactions about Tristan Blackman? No, I'll always love Tristan Blackman. He's a good dude. Philly, quite the lineup change for LAFC. I was so happy to see the lineup change.
Yeah, Hugo Lloris in between the sticks, no change there. Marlon getting the start. Maxime Chanot, Aaron Long, who had the header heard all the way out in the IE. Sergi Palencia, Timothy Tillman, Lewis O'Brien, Ryan Hollingshead, Kike Oliveira up top, Matty Bogusz in that center forward position, and Denny Bowanga. Good starting lineup on that front. Certainly a starting lineup to get you all excited about. Coming off of the bench, which I think should be the case for the rest of the freaking season, Olivier Giroud. Ilie Sanchez, I'm good with him starting or coming off the bench. Jesus David Murillo working his way back, and Edward Atuesta. Steve would only utilize 4 substitutes. Carlos Vela was on the bench, but he also should just stay on the bench. Either that or just be into it, Dome. Your statue's coming, Carlos. It's just not going to come for this year.
Yeah, Jaden Cougar mentioning, yes, Aaron Donald was the honorary Falconer, which was nice. Aaron Donald and Aaron Long, by the way, about the same height, not the same size, but about the same height. Philly, I did ask, by the way.
Oh, hold on. I do want to address that real quick. I just saw that the ADD kicked in.
Oh, no, that was me. I asked about it in the press conference. I asked about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. I did hear that. That was the comment. He said he couldn't see a world in which Olivier and Kai could be on this pitch at the same time. You know what? Take it away.
Yeah. So I asked him just point blank, was it an injury thing? Was it tactical? What was it? And man, was his answer a little cagey at first. He's like, well, we have several players who have featured a bunch of times. And he mentioned Eric Duenas and Nathan Ordaz. And I go, yeah, but if you put their ages together, they're still younger than Kai. That's not what I'm talking about here, Steve. But he did eventually get around to it. He said it. You said it there, Philly, where he said, there wasn't a world in which I could envision them both seeing the pitch in the same match. But he did say against Vancouver, against this team. So potentially he might see something like that against Seattle or against Carson or against Minnesota or against Atlanta when we make it to the final and Atlanta comes here. I think it was an awkward way for him to start the answer because basically he could read between the lines. What I was really asking is, can we just get Kai Kamara in there instead of Olivier Giroud, please? And I think he was a little defensive about his choice at first, but he came around to the answer. They also have played in the same match, right, against Houston earlier this season. And I didn't want to follow up and kind of push it a little bit more with him because he kind of knew what I was asking. But I was definitely disappointed to see no number 23 in there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And judging by the time of 9:49, let's get into the game, Scarf.
Look,
there's a reason we're seeing that too.
Not a huge amount to talk about, though, Philly. You mentioned it. They had one shot on target. We had none, but it was one hell of a save by Hugo Lloris on Brian White. And again, way too much space, top of the box. He was able to curl it with his left foot around the defender. And look, I won't say it was a great save by Hugo. It was a diving save to his right. He saw the ball the entire time, but it was a save that he had to make where a rebound came off and we had to clear. It, to me, was the only ball of the match that we needed Hugo to be a little better than I would have been.
I picked up 2 things in the first half. It's
Sure.
not really that 7th minute, man. Just if you go back to that second, the way Denny cut through 2 defenders was a thing of beauty. I watched that a couple of times. I'm like, were they just slow or was he just that fast? It was precious, man. That literally was the cliche statement, hot knife going through butter. I mean, slash right through it. Made my jaw drop. The unfortunate thing is he hit the side of the netting. Denny was hungry for a goal, man. You could just see it in his body language. The only other thing, Scarf, 43rd minute, if this match was the same match that took place up in Canada at BC Place with the way we were punished, Brian White would have scored. That wouldn't be the case in this event. Ryan Gold to Brian White, a nice through ball, chips it just past Lloris. It just doesn't have the direction that it's needed, but it does. But he did a great job keeping on side with Maxime Chenot marking him. But yes, this was the soccer gods, as we refer to them constantly on the show, were brutal to us a couple of days ago, brutal to all of our wallets recently, but not brutal to LAFC today. Again, thank God we averted that one. Would have sucked going into the locker 1-0. And we already know, we've said it, what Vancouver's record is when they score the first goal as opposed to conceding the first goal. So things would be well. We talked about the stats really at the top of this broadcast. LAFC would have 4 shots with 0 of them on target. 38% possession, looking to absorb and possibly beat Vancouver on the counter. They really did take advantage of us in a lot of cases. Almost 300 passes. They kept tiki-taking to each other, 90% pass accuracy. We were barely able to muster up an 80% passing accuracy on 153 passes. Terrible. And one corner, but that would change in the second half. An XG of 0.16. Scheisse is what my German friends would say. Feel free to look that one up.
No, look, it was not a great first half by LAFC, but Steve Cherundolo saw what was going on and said, look, we were losing the numbers in the midfield every single time. We were 3-2, and he absolutely had to make a change. He talked about it at the press conference, and once he made the change, Philly, at halftime, we had Marlon and Kike Oliveira coming off. We had Edward Atuesta and Olivier Giroud coming on. And it was Edward Atuesta who helped add the extra number in the midfield that really allowed us to start taking over in the midfield, because our midfield, it was just getting overrun. I don't think they were playing terribly, but they weren't playing well. And for me, for what we kept seeing was that every ball, every play was coming out of the midfield. Stuart Armstrong was getting a ton of touches. Pedro Vite was getting a ton of touches. But as soon as Edward Atuesta came on, and I know I've given him a lot of grief this season, but as soon as Edward Atuesta came on in that moment at the beginning of the second half, along with Olivier Giroud, we began, Philly, to just knock on the door, especially for like almost all of the 50th minutes, 51 through 59. I really liked the way that we were playing. Timothy Tillman, Denis Bouanga, Maxime Chanot, they all had different chances. And then Philly, turns out that beautiful dome of Aaron Long gets the party started for LAFC.
Yeah, 62nd minute. The diving header heard all around the Inland Empire. Aaron Long was a member of the Highlanders at UC Riverside. Going to throw that shameless plug in there once again. For those that confuse it, I went to Indiana, but I call games at UCR, so go Highlanders. The diving header, it comes off of a Takaoka with the goal kick, and then, sensational header that took a funny header right back off of Andres Kubas, right to Matty Bogusz, who absolutely scorches past Ranko Veselinovic and skirts it past Takaoka, who got caught flat-footed. That was getting caught flat-footed. A better keeper would have and probably should have made that save. He kept it low. I felt like, I don't know, a varsity, like Carlos Gonzalez, the goalkeeper for University of UC Riverside, would have made that save. Takaoka did not, but who gives a darn? We score 20 goals in all competitions for the Polish pistol, Matty Bogusz. That is all that we needed to help ourselves advance. Yowza.
And Philly, I asked Matty in the press conference. Josh was asking a couple of questions. Josh Gross, an excellent member of the LAFC press corps, was asking some impressions on, hey, you're going to the national team. You know, what are your expectations? And what about for you personally? How's your season been going? And I wanted to make Matty answer the one question that I feel like Josh was asking. He just didn't use the exact words of, Matty, you've scored 20 goals this season. 20 is a big number. Did you really ever think 20 goals was possible? And he goes, no, I'm kind of surprised. Like I wouldn't have thought I would have got to 20, but he goes, we have 3 more games. I'm going to try to get more. And I absolutely love that answer from Matty. I mean, obviously that's what he's going to say, but I was very happy with how candid he was. You know, he can be a little close-vested a little bit with some of his answers, a little tight-lipped, but it was great. You know, he's very excited. He was asked about, you know, does Steve Cherundolo give you homework while you're with the Polish national team? And he goes, actually, this is a time for me to focus on playing. I think it's Portugal and Scotland are the two matches that they're playing. He goes, this is a time for me to focus on things with the Polish national team. And then when I get back, I'll focus on everything with LAFC. So I like that. Laser focused for Matty. And we know, look, Philly, 20 goals on the season. Not many LAFC players have ever hit the 20 mark in a season.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's having a sensational season. And all things considered, dude, I mean, if you look at what he did last year versus what he's been doing this year, he's just a completely different player. And more importantly, he's opened up to his game and shown his true versatility from succeeding wherever Steve has put him. I mean, he was primarily a midfielder for us, having to operate up top all season long as we were trying to figure out the scenario with our number 9. He quickly adapted And it's just been a thing of beauty. Last season, we completely relied on Denny Bouanga. When Denny would have a bad game, we wouldn't do well. And Denny won the Golden Boot. So obviously, Denny didn't have very many bad games. But with Denny falling somewhat short of that, congrats to Christian Benteke. It's about the only damn good thing that's ever happened at DC United in quite some time. We've had a total team performance. Kike Oliveira as well. But Matty Bogusz, 20 goals in all competitions. It's been great. As I've said a couple of times, we never needed Giroud. We never needed him because nothing was broke up top. We were firing on all cylinders. What we did need was reinforcements in the midfield and in the back line. That I completely agree with. But I don't feel like we really, truly needed to change things up top. We had Kai Kamara, who came in, built out of stone, hungry and aggressive, and he already, set some goals and some marks for himself and some cool new milestones. I know I'm harping in a negative way on Giroud, and I know he still is capable of some of that magic. He did have a great first touch, keeping a ball in play, passing it on to Denny Bouanga, who just skirted it over the crossbar at some point. That was a world-class move right there, but I guess if you get him at a discount, how could you say no? But, I mean, I liked how our team played up top so much, and a lot of that, just going back, long story long, courtesy of Matty Bogusz.
I mean, look, Olivier Giroud in the match, and these are all according to FotMob, right? 19 touches, which is still not a lot.
He had 20 to the last game.
But he did create 4 chances, according to FotMob. He created 4 chances.
That's not his job.
Took a couple of shots. I don't know. I'm gonna stay away from the Olivier Giroud bashing. All I know is this: when Steve Cherundolo, Philly, decided to switch to the 4-3-3, our old friend, and he talked about, look, even in the press conference, he was like, Bob Bradley, myself, there is a long history of the 4-3-3 here at LAFC. And once we switched to it, it was like putting on a comfy sweater or an old pair of shoes, right? Like we just slotted right in and we are good to go.
Why do all of a sudden I have Simon and Garfunkel in my head again? Hello, 4-3-3, my old friend.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Good to see you on the pitch once again. Yeah, all right. Don't worry. I'm not gonna go through it. One of these days, I'm gonna debut the Denny Bouanga song that I wrote a season ago, to the tune of Philip Bailey and Phil Collins' "Easy Lover." But I need to see another Denny goal before I can do that.
Dude, I still have the Coldplay inspired Diego Rossi song that I wrote of him not getting the MVP.
Well, knowing how long it took you to come out with the Brian song, I think we'll probably see this around 2027.
Look, second half, after the 62nd minute, I could have laid down in front of Hugo Lloris and no one would have touched me with a blade of grass, a ball, or anything else. It was excellent defending, Philly, by LAFC, completely clean in front of Hugo for almost all of the second half. We had Ilie come on for Timothy Tillman in the 82nd minute, and we had Jesus Murillo come on for Matty in the 86th. Thank you, Izzy. We appreciate it. But, I mean, not a lot Vancouver's way. Sartini was so frustrated by the end of it, Philly. Again, that 4-3-3, that steel trap, bend but don't break defense, Philly, I loved every minute of it.
I've got I reference this, I think, the last pod too. For Vanni Sartini, he truly is Pedro Martinez on the Boston Red Sox, where he goes, I tip my hat and I have to just say the Yankees are my daddy. Vanni Sartini's tipping his hat and going, LAFC is my daddy. But the thing he did say in the press conference, because I wanted to listen to what he had to say. I love his demeanor. I'm not going to lie. Just listening to him, he has some funny quips. He did say, like, well, overall, playing aggregate, we did win 4-3. I'm like, he actually went for that, that they won on the aggregate. But when asked about his assessment for the season, he goes, it wasn't a total failure. If I were to give it I would give it a B-. I just like listening to Vanni Sartini. He's turned Vancouver around. And like Steve did say in the press conference, they weren't an 8th seed, man. They just had an unlucky stretch of runs towards the end of the season that put them there. I would agree in the sense that they probably should have been a 5 or a 6 seed, which means that they could have played us or Carson down the road and maybe gotten out of the first round. But I don't have a problem with Vanni Sartini. I'm happy I don't have to see him for a while. I'm sure you are too. But it feels pretty good to come out of this round. Not very convincing, Scarf. I can't can't say we've had very many convincing games over the past month. I would say even for stretches, San Jose wasn't convincing until we finally started scoring on decision day. But, things are going to have to improve. The focus is going to have to improve. They're going to have to play 2 solid halves of football, not one if they're going to look to get past a team as dangerous as Seattle. But so far, we live to fight another day, and we've got 2 flipping weeks to think about it. Good Lord.
Yeah, I do want to say, I think, and I've used this boxing analogy a ton here on the podcast, but I think this is one where styles make fights. And I think this was a difficult matchup for LAFC because of the way that Vancouver plays. I just think, obviously, going back to a 3-0 loss, followed by a tough win, followed by another tough win. This wasn't like when we were blowing them out 3-0 on the way to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, or even later on in the year when we were blowing them out 3-0. They're a much better team, and especially with the addition of Stuart Armstrong, with the insertion of Sebastian Berhalter Giggity on the back line. I mean, so many things that they've done to make themselves a little better. I think it was just a case of styles making fights, that this club was just a tougher matchup for LAFC than I think maybe Seattle might be, than I think Houston might have been. Certainly, you have more firepower in Portland, but they were able to take that away. So it was a lot of different things. I think, though, this is styles making fights, but more importantly, everybody wants to know, was Denny's PK a PK? I don't think so. I didn't think so.
Soccer USA, the answer to your question, who's taller, Hello Kitty or Ricky Pooch? Simple.
It is me. I'm a foot taller than Ricky Pooch. He does score goals better, and he's a lot faster on the pitch, but I might be faster in real life, which means I have more fun.
Well, there you go. Philly, just November 23rd or 24th. We don't know yet.
Please, for love of God, 23rd.
We do know it's going to be Seattle. We do know it's going to be at BMO. I mean, at least we got something fun to look forward to that isn't the damn Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yeah, but we have 2 weeks to think about it. I hate this. I mean, when Steve was asked what his thoughts are, and he gave the most politically correct answer. If I was a coach, I would be heated. You don't want to kill momentum, man. Momentum is really something that matters. It carries on. You're going to break up the team. People are going to go on international. Dude, I like the fact that they at least did it that way. Could you imagine going through the playoffs where you would end up losing players because of going to international? Dude, at that point, I'd have to say a big one of these to Don Garber and the league. But we do have to fix this. The idea of them going to a schedule that more is accommodative to what they do overseas in Europe, and to create a better situation also for the transfer market. I hope to God they do that, because this is ridiculous. It's tiring playing, seeing games. Dude, we've done over 100 podcasts this season. And while that's fine and dandy, it gets exhausting having this many games in a year stretched out in the way it does. We should be done at this point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I said, November 5th was when we won MLS Cup, guys. It's November 9th, and we're nowhere near the end of the damn season. So way too stretched out now. If you're going to insert cash grab tournaments like Leagues Cup in the middle of the damn thing, and you're going to poo all over the Open Cup, at least fix the schedule so that you're not asking a bunch of guys that are making $89,000 a year to bolster the rosters of clubs that you want to put on the world stage in the Club World Cup and the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's absolutely ridiculous.
100%. All right, so we end up winning. That's fantastic. 3-0-1 against the Vancouver Whitecaps in postseason play. We're getting ready for our 50th game, Scarf. And thus far, after 49, it's funny. We don't think of us having a dominating season, but when you look 31-10-8, that's pretty damn good, man. We've had a phenomenal season if you really break it down, but there's one thing that eludes us right now, and that's that MLS Cup. We need that. Steve Cherundolo, 80 wins in 143 matches in all competitions as LAFC head coach. He's taking care of business. For the Cherundolo out folks, yeah, if you do your math, it's 55% winning, but we haven't even factored in the draws. So I wanted to throw that in there as well. And congrats once again to Matty Bogusz. 20 goals across all competitions this season. Freaking awesome.
Yeah, and one other thing cool about Matty Bogusz, right? He's now scored in MLS regular season, MLS Cup playoffs, US Open Cup, and Leagues Cup this season. 3 players on LAFC have done that, Denis and Kike Oliveira being the other 2. That's fun. By the way,
He's also the 15th different LAFC player to score a postseason goal dating back to 2018.
He absolutely is. 20
Makes
goals,
sense.
man. It was awesome. All right, Philly, you know I got to run in just a little bit. I am got to be over at school. I'm hosting the book fair. I'm emceeing the book fair today over at our
Wait,
school.
they still have those like book fairs? And is that when we used to get those like little construction paper things and we'd circle which book we have? Like, could you get
man.
those
The
Choose
good
Your Own
old
Adventures and a
Scholastic
Goose
book
Book,
fair.
please?
Yeah.
Wait, do the Hardy Boys still make books?
I mean, I don't know. I was going through, I saw a lot of fun stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot of, Harry Potter's and Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and all kinds of fun stuff, man. Scholastic Book Fair at my school and a bunch of other schools. I'm emceeing it and I got to be there in like 25 minutes. So we got to run. I got to go.
Cool. Defenders, thank you so much. We will be back. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something between now and 2 weeks, or maybe we'll just take a break because we need it. I don't know. But either way, I love you. Scarf loves you.
Hello, Kitty, who's taller than Ricky Pooch, loves you.
And enjoy the rest of your weekend. For you Michigan fans out there, up yours. Go Hoosiers. I'm done.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.